I'm Chair for Leicester Council of Faith, and on behalf of Council of Faith, you have mentioned on Big Society about these community organizers, community empowerment. And as faith leaders, faith community leaders, we are already empowered. Recently EDL coming to Leicester, you have seen. But Big Society is very silent on faith issues. There is no mention about it. On Tuesday, I'm glad Leon is here, that we were at a conference. The government civil servant was there talking only about this document. And I think not even a single person appreciated what he was saying. And for volunteering or anything, I mean, WAL is providing the leadership. We come here for advocacy, organization, funding, dissemination of good practice. But why is Big Society, it's a big chunk of faith issues, is silent on it. And another issue which I want to, as a woman, is the women issue. Yesterday, as part of Local Democracy Week, Leicester Trust, they had these events. And it's amazing how many women issues are still not being mentioned in this fight.
Yes, I wanted to comment a bit about what we mean by the big society and where the idea comes from. Because I think in some ways there is a capturing of part of the Conservative Party and its ideology. There was a part of the Conservative Party in the 1980s and perhaps before that simply didn't care what happened. It wasn't concerned about the problems of poor people or problems within communities. And I suppose the sort of miners' strike and the actions that occurred in the mining communities was an illustration of the "and we don't care" approach. But that view, whether for electoral reasons or otherwise, has been superseded. Now, there may well be lots of people left in the Conservative Party whose attitude is summed up in the phrase, "we don't care," but I suspect that the people who are closest to Cameron are not in that group, and from my perspective, I would like to say that that is social justice. Even as non-Conservatives, I think we ought to try and not be too cynical about it.
Graham first. Embrace all cynics.
Well, I support what Dave was just saying entirely, and I think the key issue is there has been a change of mindset. I certainly have no input into or insight into what goes on in Conservative Party headquarters, but I think there are a group of individuals now who are advising, who do have a completely different perspective on this. And I think that's quite right. If we don't try and embrace this issue and try and work with it, it will allow the cynics to come through and start actually, saying that was a really bad idea. So I'm certainly somebody who wants to embrace this initiative. I think it offers huge amount of potential. I did actually hear Philip Flon speak actually at the Liberal Democrat conference. He came and did a couple of fringe sessions. And he was up with quite a few people, including Shirley Williams, which I thought was quite an interesting. She had some very interesting perspectives on it too. I am definitely somebody who wants to embrace this. I think I do take the point about faith communities and particularly the role of women. I think there needs to be more articulated about that, because faith communities have a huge role to play in this kind of area. And I mean, we already know about some of the faith-based charities that do a great work overseas in international development. So there's no reason why they can't get involved in local communities as well. I think it is early stage. That's the whole issue. I mean, we've had this idea articulated. And we must be careful it doesn't become, a battle between this is all about cuts and this is actually, at the way ahead, because there has to be some kind of consensus to work together to look at the opportunities that this kind of initiative has, and there are plenty of them. It's a question of actually finding them out. And I do take the point about, it's going to be very hard if paid individuals who provide the advice are going to be taken away.
I think that somehow volunteers will step in and provide the levels of service that we expect state, locally and nationally to provide. And I take David's point about the battle of ideas, but the ideas actually, as presented by the Conservatives, and they're the dominant partner, is very clearly, as expressed there, you know, and it is illustrated. Now, sorry to keep holding yourself, but that is how they are presenting it, as a choice between a big society and big government. And when they talk about big government, what they mean are public services. That's actually what it's about. I'll just read very briefly. I won't bore you with all of this, but I'll just read briefly the introduction to this, because it says the big society is a society with much higher levels of personal, professional, civic, and corporate responsibility. Yeah, indeed. A society where people come together to solve problems and improve life for themselves and their communities. Yeah. A society where the leading force for progress is social responsibility, not state control. Yeah, I think I know what that means, and I think, you know, broadly I'd agree with that. But what they then go on to do, you see, is to set against all that very positive something that is a false choice, because they say the big society is our positive alternative to Labour's failed big government approach. Now, actually, if you unpick what that means, it's an alternative to Labour's investment in public services. That's actually what that's about. And that's what concerns me about this. And, you know, I'm sorry, you know, to that extent to disagree with you, David, because really it is down to this being used as a way of covering some appalling cuts that are about to be made, and saying, oh yeah, well, you know, we're doing it because we don't believe in big government. Actually, we're doing it because we don't believe in public services.
Peter and Graham, both our speakers, and thank all of you for your contributions. This is part of the Democracy Week, and part of democracy is debate, is that battle of ideas, is that having different ideas, having different thoughts, discussing them and coming to a conclusion. I'm not sure we've come to conclusions today, but we have aired an awful lot of ideas, and you know, I think Graham wandering off piste onto the NHS there shows we've got other events we should be organising and other debates we should be having. So thank you very much, both our speakers. Thank you all the audience. Please enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you.